Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Outcomes Rocket. I'm so excited that you joined us for another episode. Today, I have the privilege of hosting Charles Gaudet. He is an outstanding entrepreneur and leader in the space, the CEO and founder of Predictable Profits. Charles, so great to have you on the podcast.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course. You're doing some really interesting things, and I'd love to dig into them. For the folks listening that don't know who you are or what Predictable Profits does, let us know.
Got it. Entrepreneur since the age of 4, never had a traditional quote unquote real job. After graduating college, I started a business nominated by Ernst & Young as being one of the nation's best seed stage companies. And at 24, I created my first multi-million-dollar business. After that, I just continued to build and grow companies until 2010. That's when somebody offered to pay me to grow their business, and Predictable Profits was born. We've helped many companies earn their spot on the Inc. 5000 fastest growing companies list. Recently took a company from 950,000 to 66 million in about 7 years. And typically, founders and CEOs, they'll come to us and they'll say things like, "Hey, how do I grow my company faster?" Or there's some months that are feast, some months that are famine. How do we create more predictability into our revenue? Or then the third one is, hey, company is far too dependent on me. How do we scale this thing? And that's more or less sums up what we do here at Predictable Profits, and managed to get a few things right over the past several years. Enough so, International Business Times named us a go-to business coach for 7- and 8-figure companies. And we've been on the list of top lists for a while now.
That's awesome, man. 15 years into Predictable Profits. I love that you started off at 4. What was your business when you were at 4?
Selling artwork to my neighbors.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Were you making the artwork or sourcing it, or what was the deal there?
My dad was an entrepreneur. He was typical founder's trap, stuck in the founder's trap, believed that the secret to success was hard work. And so he worked every waking hour of every day. But when I did get a chance to see him, which wasn't much until I got into 3rd grade, he would say, "Kid, if you ever want to make something yourself, you got to be an entrepreneur." So for that reason, I wanted to get my dad's attention. I would draw artwork. I would sell it to my neighbors. And that's what I did.
That's cool, man. I love that story. You work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and we've got a lot of entrepreneurs listening to this podcast. You mentioned some of the common traps and pitfalls. For the sake of them, they're in healthcare. They're building businesses that sell into healthcare systems, that sell into insurance companies. All of this stuff, business is business. So what would you recommend for a company in business as common mistake to avoid?
All right, got it. The advice that I would have given you a couple of years ago is way different than the advice that I'd give you today, because now we live in what we refer to as an AI forward buyer's journey. Right? Some of the listeners are selling to enterprise. Some of them are selling to SMBs. No matter which way you slice it or dice it, what's happening is people are going into these search engines and they're entering their information. We have AI overviews or atlases coming across, and it's mostly AI and so forth. And so with this AI forward buyer's journey, we want to make sure that we're playing it smart. We know that there's a few things that are important. One of them is that you want to be able to make you want to make the sale happen before a meeting. Now, that sounds interesting, right? Make sales happen without meetings. Like, how do you do that? And what does that mean? I think it's important for people to understand that, and this is supported by data provided by McKinsey, and I think it's either Gartner or Forrester, one of the two. It's forecasted that by the year 2030, 100% of all sales decisions will happen without a salesperson being involved. So 100%, not like 90, not 95, not 99.9. It's going to be 100%, right? As it stands right now, 75% of all RFPs are going through the AI process of being somehow influenced through AI. But 100% of all buying decisions, and it doesn't matter the price value. It could be $1 million plus decisions, $500,000 plus price decisions. The role of the salesperson changes from, I got to convince you, Saul, to go ahead and buy what I have to offer, to now you would have already done your research when you get on the phone with me. You have decided that now you want to do business with me. It's just a matter of, now that we're on the phone, let's customize a proposal and get a few things right that maybe I didn't find online or want to double check. So moves from sales to more client experience. So when you understand what all that means, Then it's, okay, what is the information that needs to be had on my website in order to make sure that we've empowered the buyer to make a decision before they have to get on the phone with me? Simple things like, are you calling the person out on your website, the specific company and problem that you're dealing with? We call that the super consumer. Are you calling them out? Do you have a clear, unique advantage point? So what makes you unique and different and better than your competition? Because if you can't articulate that and you're leaving it up to your prospects to figure that out, that also becomes difficult. And all this information is being fed into AI. So when you run all this stuff through AI needs to be able to help guide you in that decision to say, hey, this is what makes this person different. This is who they're speaking to and so forth. And we can go way deep, but that's part of it. At another level, the predictable profits operating system, which is the only framework that's ever existed for 6, 7, and 8-figure companies to create predictable on monthly growth year after year, month after month, right? At the very foundation of all of that is setup. When people think, I do marketing, you can't do marketing. Nobody can do marketing. Nobody's ever done marketing. Marketing is a function. It's a function of how you create, capture, and nurture that demand. So if you think of marketing in terms of functions, I would ask our listeners to sit back and ask themselves, how effective are you at creating demand? Most people are probably sitting there shrugging their shoulders. They don't know. Then how effective are you at capturing demand? Oh, got it. X amount of leads per day, per week. Okay, you got it. Capturing demand. And what about nurturing that demand? How effective are you at actually nurturing that demand? Because one of the things that we discovered after years and thousands of businesses that we've worked with is that it's consumption that drives conversion. So how are you driving consumption through that nurturing demand to drive that conversion?
I love it.
So that kind of all ties into what they would need to do. And that you want to talk about enterprise. Enterprise is much different, right? Because if you sell an enterprise, you're selling to an irrational buyer. What does that mean? They actually don't care if you have the best proposal at the best price or anything else. If they don't care about that, what do they care about then? Are you the safest? Are you the safest? And the old saying, nobody ever got fired for buying IBM, even though IBM wasn't the best. It was just they were the safest. Or FedEx, when absolutely positively has to be there overnight, is because it was the safest. When you start selling to the rational buyer, they look for something else, right? They want to look at that. They're more of what is the ROI and how does that save them time or whatever that might be, right? So know who your buyer is, know what you're appealing to, and how that message appeals to that primary decision process.
That's fantastic. No, I love the framework. And you mentioned that predictable profits is an operating model. So is it like, would they be putting predictable profits OS instead of something like EOS?
I think EOS is great in many ways. There's so many different operating systems. EOS is great. StoryBrand is great. There's all these different ones. And we have many clients that come to us who are using an EOS model. It's just what the predictable profits operating system does is it looks at both the front of the business and the back of the business at the same time, right? A lot of those models focus on maybe one small part of the business. This looks at things as a whole. Looks at everything from marketing and bringing clients in to when you bring them in, how do you convert them? And then there's the sales part of the engine. How do you convert them and get them buying from you over and over again at higher prices and more frequency? And then on the scale component of it, how can you end up from now that you're growing, how do you stay on that growth track? We talked about all the companies that we brought on the Inc. 5000 fastest growing companies list, but what most people don't realize is growth strategies and predictable growth strategies. So fast growth strategies and predictable they're different strategies. The majority of all books, the majority of all courses, the majority of everything are focused on fast growth. Why? Because that's what sells. But what's the consequence of focusing on fast growth? The Kauffman Foundation found that 66% of all companies that made it on the Inc. 5000 fastest growing companies list within 5 to 8 years were disadvantageously sold, went out of business, or shrunk in size because they focused on fast growth, not predictable growth. Two different strategies. You don't have to sacrifice fast growth with predictable growth, but it requires a different foundation and a different engine.
Well said. Hey, I like your shirt. It says results. Some folks may be watching this, others may not. But at the end of the day, it is about results.
It is. And more specifically, it's about data. One thing we don't do is we don't sit in a room and go, I think this is where this is going to work, and this is why, and this is why, and here's how I feel about it. At the end of the day, it comes down to what's the data so we can be objective about our decisions instead of, hey, what do we think about it? Or this is what I heard or whatnot. If we don't have the data, we'll test to get some data. Because when you think about, and Saul, you're a very successful guy. You've gone through this multiple different times. If you think about your progress and what helped, chances are you went through 3 different cycles. First, you went to optimization. Here's what I've done. Now let's optimize it to make sure that it's finely tuned. Once it's finely tuned, you throw it into systemization. Build a system around it so it can be repeatable over and over again, whether you use technology for automation or people to drive the process. But optimization, systemization, once those 2 are done, now you go into innovation. And innovation means now you've earned the right to do something else, to create a new profit center, create a whatever that might be. So if you don't have the data, you can't optimize. If you don't have the data, when you put it into a system, you don't know when it stops working. So you got to get those 2. That helps you escape that founder's trap to make sure you continue to grow and scale.
Optimize, systematize, innovate.
Yep.
It's awesome. I like that a lot. We have a framework internally we use. It's BOET, build, optimize, expand, transform. And that's something that we cycle through in our business.
Yeah.
But I like how you framed it around optimize. The systematization is what allows founders to free themselves from that founder trap, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So I guess if you were to leave our listeners and viewers with a message, what message would you leave them with? And what's the best way that they could get in touch with you and your team at Predictable Profits?
This question comes up a lot, and there's a lot that I can answer for what I would leave them with. But when I look at what has helped me through all the years of entrepreneurship the most, I learned this very early on when I was in high school. I had a losing record. I was a wrestler. I had a losing record in JV, which is pretty bad, right? So I didn't even win a single match in JV freshman year. My dad thought it was a sure bet, and he goes, "Kid, if you become a state champion by senior year, then I'll buy you a car." So I took that on as a challenge. And so what I did is the first thing I did is I wrestled in high school, and I went to college coaches to ask the college coaches if they would train me when I wasn't training with high school. And then I sought out the best coach I possibly could find, and it was Dan Gable out in Iowa. He won the Olympics without ever getting a point scored against him. And I hired him twice to coach me. By my senior year, I won 3 state championships, 2 in Massachusetts, 1 in New Hampshire, and was undefeated. And what I learned is that my best successes came from finding a mentor, finding an advisor, finding a coach that has gone through that path before me that could help guide me, so I wasn't sitting there trying to figure it out all on my own. What should I focus on? What should I do? What should I avoid? And then that's ultimately been the number 1 driver behind my biggest successes, including today.
Charles,
I'm surrounded by coaches today, but in health and everything.
That's awesome, Charles. What a great way to close us out. And what a cool story that you literally went a season without a win. You said, all right, there's a car on the line here. And that's like leverage is important too, right? That's kind of the message in between the lines. You said, let me go above and beyond. You got a couple, not even like daily coaching. You literally got a couple sessions with this guy.
I ended up every day for 4 years, I would find different coaches, and I obsessed myself over it. And I traveled all over, and I had to make up for the years that I have experienced that my competitors had, and I had to make up for it. So,
what kind of car did your dad get you?
Ford Explorer.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you were 18 driving a good Ford Explorer.
It worked.
Oh man, what color was it?
It was a 2-tone. It was white on the top and then beige like in the middle. Like way back when, that's like the way that it worked. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Cruising with your win. Love it, Charles. I really appreciate you jumping on to share your story. If people want to get in touch with you, where can they find you?
Predictableprofits.com. Again, that is predictableprofits.com. We got a bunch of free resources there, including my book, if they want to check that out, or on LinkedIn under Charles Gaudet. If you want to connect with me, though, tell me you've been on this podcast and I'll accept you. But that, again, is Charles Gaudet or predictableprofits.com.
That's awesome. Well, there you have it, folks. Charles Gaudet, CEO and founder of Predictable Profits. We'll leave all the ways to get in touch with him in the show notes. Make sure you do. We all have those shortcuts to success available to us. It's those connections that you make with guys like Charles that will help you take those shortcuts intelligently. You don't have to slave away. There's ways to get there smartly. Charles, thanks for being with us, man. This is really good.
Thank you. It's been an honor. Appreciate you.
you.